All right, so you're thinking about taking Computer Information Systems 13, Section 3434 at El Camino College.
Buckle up.
We're about to take a deep dive into this syllabus.
Think of it as your cheat sheet for the entire semester.
We'll break down the schedule, the requirements.
And anything else that might trip you up?
So first off, this is fully online.
Yeah, asynchronous.
So that means...
No set meeting times.
Awesome, right?
Total flexibility.
There's
a catch.
You have to log into Canvas on day one.
Like literally day one.
Or you could get dropped from the class.
No joke.
So even though you can work at your own pace, you got to show up.
The professor wants to know you're serious.
Okay, so let's talk tech.
What do you absolutely need to have to succeed in this class?
Yeah, what are we talking here?
All right, so you absolutely need a Windows 10 or 11 PC.
Ooh, specific.
Yeah, no Macs, no Chromebooks.
So it sounds like maybe they're diving into some Windows-specific stuff.
Could be.
Which would make sense.
I mean, if you're going to be working in a corporate environment later on.
Yeah, good point.
And don't forget a webcam.
Ah, yes, the webcam.
Those are mandatory for exam.
No exceptions.
Nope.
Although if you're in a bind, the El Camino College Library has loaner laptops available.
So there are options.
Always good to know.
All right, speaking of resources, the professor...
Professor Kai Lu.
Yes, him.
His email is clue@elcamino.edu.
And he offers both virtual and in-person office hours.
So he seems very accessible.
Yeah, definitely.
Wants to make sure that his students can get the help they need.
Okay, let's talk deadlines.
Yeah, mark these on your calendar.
Sunday, March 2nd, 2025.
That's the last day to drop the class for a full refund.
Then you've got Friday, May 16th, 2025.
That's the W withdrawal deadline.
That's, of course, spring break.
Oh, yes, a little break.
April 14th through the 18th.
Okay, so you've got those dates down.
Now, let's talk about how to actually succeed in this class.
Yeah, what does the professor say?
He really emphasizes engagement.
Like, what does that mean, practically?
You have to watch every single lecture video.
All of them.
They go beyond the textbook.
Interesting.
He says they provide deeper insights and explanations.
Okay, so those are key.
And don't even think about skipping the activities and readings.
This isn't a class you can just coast through.
Absolutely not.
So if you start feeling stuck, what should you do?
He actually addresses that in the syllabus.
Really?
He says start assignments early.
Makes sense.
And take advantage of his office hours.
So he's there to help.
Don't forget about the Pronto app on Canvas either.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
It's like a direct line to the professor and your classmates for quick questions and updates.
So kind of like a class forum.
Exactly.
And of course, submit your work on time.
Late submissions mean lost points.
Which can really impact your grade.
All right, so speaking of grades,
Let's break it down.
30% of your grade comes from lab assignments.
Okay, so a good chunk is hands-on.
Yep, 15% for both the Access and Excel final assessments.
So he's really testing you on those practical skills.
Another 15% for computer essential assessments.
So making sure you've got those core competencies down.
And 25% for chapter quizzes and assignments.
Okay, so a good mix of everything.
It seems like he really wants you to be able to use what you're learning.
Not just memorize it.
Exactly.
Now I'm curious about the week-by-week schedule.
Are there any weeks that stand out to you?
I mean, are there any that are like super intense or really focused on practical skills?
Definitely week 6.
What happens in week 6?
That's where you have your first computer essentials assessment.
Oh boy.
It covers everything you've learned in chapters 1 through 4.
Sounds intense.
But don't worry, you'll have plenty of opportunities to practice.
And ask questions.
He's all about using the Pronto app and attending office hours.
So you've got support?
For sure.
What about other weeks?
Let's see.
Any that focus on skills that are like super relevant to a job?
Oh, week 8 is a big one.
What happens in week 8?
That's when you have the Excel assessment.
Oh, the Excel assessment.
Yeah, so you really get to show off those spreadsheet skills.
Those are in high demand.
In any office setting.
So it's not just about memorizing formulas.
It's about using Excel in a practical way.
Got it.
And then later on in week 14, you have the Microsoft Access Capstone project.
What's that all about?
You get to design and implement a real-world database solution.
Oh, wow.
It's a chance to put all your database skills to the test.
That sounds challenging.
But really valuable.
Yeah, definitely something you can put on your resume.
For sure.
So even though the syllabus lays out the whole semester...
It sounds like weeks 6, 8, and 14 are going to be key.
Yeah, make sure to mark those down and maybe even start prepping early.
Good advice.
Okay, so now that we've got those key weeks highlighted...
Let's move on to some of the policies in the syllabus.
Things like late submissions and attendance.
Even though this is an online class, Professor Loom is strict about deadlines.
Yeah, the syllabus mentions that late submissions are only accepted for partial credit.
And there are some exceptions.
Like what?
You'll lose 3.57% of the total score per day for up to 7 days.
Ouch.
Discussion assignments are never accepted late.
Why not?
Because they're designed to be interactive.
Makes sense.
And assignments during the last week of class also have a hard deadline.
So no wiggle room there.
Nope.
So time management is key.
You've got to stay on top of those deadlines.
Especially with those big assessments coming up.
Right.
And remember, Even though the class is asynchronous,
Weekly participation is still required
so you can't just disappear for a few weeks.
and expect to catch up later,
Professor Luke wants to see consistent engagement.
throughout the semester.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about academic integrity.
The syllabus has a whole section on that.
Yeah, it's pretty standard stuff, right?
Turning in your own work,
Citing your sources.
not plagiarizing.
But there is a specific mention of AI, which is interesting.
Yeah, what's his take on that?
He allows the use of AI for research and prep, but you have to properly cite it.
Otherwise, it could be flagged as an academic integrity violation.
It's good that he's acknowledging the role of AI in education.
Yeah, and providing clear guidelines.
Absolutely. He even encourages students to ask him directly if they have any questions about using AI.
So he seems approachable.
Yeah, and willing to guide students through this new territory.
Okay, so we've talked about deadlines and academic integrity.
What about resources?
There are a ton.
I mean, the syllabus is packed with information on student support services.
It's impressive, actually.
What kind of stuff are we talking?
They have everything from tutoring centers and computer labs
To health services?
and support for veterans.
And students with disabilities?
They even have a food pantry
Wow.
and offer assistance with transportation and housing
So they're really trying to take care of students' basic needs.
so they can focus on their studies.
And if you need special accommodations, they have the Special Resource Center.
The SRC,
Yeah, they encourage students to communicate directly with Professor Liu as well.
which speaks to his commitment to accessibility and inclusivity.
Absolutely.
The syllabus also highlights the Student Success Act.
What's that?
It outlines state regulations that could affect your financial aid
Your registration priority.
and your ability to repeat classes.
So it's important to be aware of those.
They can really impact your academic journey.
And if you're thinking about pursuing a certificate or degree,
The syllabus encourages you to meet with a counselor
to explore your options.
and create an educational plan.
It's ever too early to start planning for your future.
Absolutely.
Now, what about getting involved on campus?
Well, they have the Associated Students Organization.
The ASO?
Yeah, they advocate for the student body and work to improve the quality of education and student engagement.
So they're like the student government.
Exactly.
And they even have academic division senators who hold office hours.
So you can share your concerns and ideas directly.
Sounds like a great way to get involved.
The ASO also uses student fees to support valuable programs like the Metro U Pass and the Warrior Food Pantry.
So they're really committed to student well-being.
Speaking of commitment, the syllabus concludes with a land acknowledgement.
Oh yeah, what does it say?
It recognizes the Gabrielino Plongva people.
The original inhabitants of the land where El Camino College stands.
It's a meaningful gesture.
Yeah, acknowledging the history and cultural significance of the land.
It also acknowledges the history of racial discrimination in the area,
Oh wow.
particularly the condemnation of the Gordon Manor Tract.
What is that?
It was a black residential development proposed for the same land in 1926.
That's a powerful reminder that education and opportunity haven't always been accessible to everyone.
And acknowledging that history is important.
Absolutely.
Okay, last but not least, the syllabus wraps up with a section on recording policies.
Oh yeah, what's the deal with that?
Recording any part of the class without prior consent from the professor is strictly prohibited,
Makes sense. It's all about protecting privacy.
and creating a safe and respectful learning environment.
The only exception is for students who require recording as an accommodation for a disability
But even then, they have to provide documentation from the SRC.
and get approval from Professor Liu.
And even with permission, recordings can only be used for personal use.
They can't be shared or distributed.
Right.
It's a good reminder that while technology can be a great learning tool,
It's important to use it responsibly and ethically.
all right, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We've talked about the course schedule.
Requirements.
Yeah.
And some of the key policies and resources.
Feeling a little overwhelmed.
That's okay. It's a lot to take in.
But that's what this deep dive is for.
We're here to giving a clear roadmap to success in this class.
And remember, you're not alone in this.
Professor Lucid and El Camino College offer a ton of support.
To help you along the way.
Now that we've covered all the basics.
Let's talk about what you can do with this degree.
Yeah, the syllabus actually has some really interesting information about potential careers.
So stay tuned. It's not just about landing a job, though.
It's about having the skills to thrive in that job.
And this course lays the foundation.
All right, so we've covered all the in-class stuff.
The syllabus actually goes a step further.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it talks about how this CIS course can launch you into a real career.
Okay, so like what specifically are we talking about?
Well, first off, it emphasizes how much demand there is for IT professionals.
Like right now?
Yeah, like right now.
And how well they get paid?
It not just hype either.
What do you mean?
They list specific job titles
Oh, wow.
and potential salary ranges.
So it's one thing to hear you could work in tech,
Right.
but to actually see cloud architect, 6 figures?
Yeah, that's a whole other level of motivation.
Totally. And they break down El Camino's CIS programs, too.
So if something sparks your interest,
You know where to go next.
that's what makes this deep dive so valuable.
It's not just about getting through CIS-13.
It's about setting you up for long-term success.
All right, so let's recap.
What have we learned today?
We went through the syllabus.
Highlighted key dates.
Tech must-have.
How to get that A.
And even peeked at potential careers.
What stood out to you the most?
I think, for me, it's how much effort Professor Lewis putting in.
To make online learning work.
Yeah, he's really going above and beyond.
To make this class engaging and supportive.
Despite the distance,
Totally agree.
the resources, his communication style, the detailed syllabus.
It all shows he's invested in his students.
So for anyone listening out there,
This is just the beginning.
take this deep dive.
Absorb it.
Use it to rock CIF-13.
And who knows?
Maybe we'll see you at an El Camino career fair a few years down the line.
You got this.
Now, before we wrap up.
I have one question for you.
Okay, shoot.
If you could ask Professor Liu one question,
Before starting this course.
what would it be?
That's a good one.
Hold on to that question.
It might just be the key.
To unlocking your future in it. So we talked about succeeding in the class itself.
Right, all the deadlines, the assignments.
But what about beyond CIS-13?
Yeah, like where does this lead?
What can you actually do with this knowledge?
That's where it gets really exciting.
The syllabus has a whole section on this.
Really.
It's all about how this course can be your launchpad.
To like an actual career.
An amazing career in it.
I was just looking at that.
It's not just empty promises either.
Yeah, the syllabus gets specific.
It highlights how much companies need it people right now.
And how well they pay.
Exactly. It's not just, oh, you can get a job.
It's like, hey, you could be making serious bank.
They even list specific job titles.
Like what?
Proud Architect Cybersecurity Analyst.
Ooh, those sound pretty cool.
And they even give potential salary ranges.
I'm guessing we're talking 6 figures here.
Oh, yeah, for sure, some of them.
So it's one thing to hear you could work in tech.
Right.
But they actually see those numbers.
To see data scientist 120K starting,
That's motivating.
it makes it real, you know.
Absolutely. And they don't just leave you hanging.
Right. They break down El Camino's own CIS programs.
So if something in the syllabus sparks your interest,
You know exactly where to go next.
to learn more to specialize,
That's what I love about this deep dive.
it's not just about one class.
It's about connecting the dots
From where you are now.
to where you want to be.
All right, let's recap one last time.
What have we covered today?
We went through that syllabus front to back.
Highlighted all the key dates.
Talked tech
How to
requirements.
ace those assignments.
And even got a glimpse of those future career possibilities.
It's a lot to take in.
But you are now officially prepped for CIS-13.
More than prepped.
You're ahead of the game.
Now, one last thought before we sign off.
Hit us with it.
If you could ask Professor Liu just one question,
Right now, before even starting the class.
what would it be?
Think about that for a second.
Because that question might just be the first step.
On your journey to a successful IT career.
We're out.
See ya.